Ring.
At the end of this session, what we would like to do is to get more of your participation, your questions, your comments on the presentations in this session. After that, we will have a general discussion about various other things relating to IGYS. Yeah. So, Anirdesh, could you please start the next set of presentations, please?
Sure, sir.
Mohammad Faizan of Class 10, studying in Vidyanjali. Good morning. I am Mohammad Faizan of Class 10, studying in Vidyanjali Academy for Learning. Heavily shaken by the COVID-19 pandemic, many of us are currently thinking about how we could contribute to overcome this unpredicted situation. The COVID-19 not only challenges disease control and crisis management, but many also have a long-term and far-reaching impacts on states, societies, and international operations. So me and my friends Yasir and Agnimitra decided to conduct a survey to know about the opinions of other people about COVID-19. And we got some interesting and touching replies from different people. Here is Agnimitra interviewing his neighbor, Mrs. Padma Shri, who has suffered a lot due to COVID-19, living in first class Sunrise Colony, Cholayakanahalli, Artinagar Post, Bangalore. The question asked were, what are the precautions taken by you and your family to stop the spread of COVID-19? The important thing our family did to prevent COVID 19 was to wear a mask while going out, maintain daily hygiene, and avoid public places. Our family took vaccination, and even after vaccination, our family follows the COVID protocol. Maintaining our physical health was important, so 1 hour of yoga was mandatory for all the family members daily. How do you think geography has affected COVID 19? During the second wave, the situations were really bad. There were around 50 families living in my apartment, and this made easier for COVID to spread. People started avoiding each other, and there was no interaction between our neighbors. The situation were even worse when 4 families were tested positive for COVID 19. Those 4 families were isolated and were restricted to have physical contact with anyone. Even though one of the families were vaccinated, they were tested positive for COVID 19. Finally, after 15 days of quarantine, we were free and all the 4 families recovered successfully. What do you think has changed in the past 1.5 years? COVID has had a deep impact in our lifestyle. Due to pandemic, the whole nation was in lockdown and all the employees were asked to work from home. As we used to work in our offices, and this was challenging for a few months and took time for us to adapt to the new world. The education system of students has changed a lot. All the schools were asked to conduct online classes and online exams, which had a deep impact on their mental and physical health, due to which many of the students, including my son, had to wear specs. The only advantage I found is the percentage of pollution in our environment has decreased due to less usage of vehicle and petrol. Sounds interesting, right? Was someone tested positive for COVID 19 in your family? If yes, how was your experience? Yes, my mother was tested positive for COVID 19 and we faced a lot of difficulties. At first, the symptoms of COVID were hidden. After 2 weeks, my mother got a severe fever and had heavy breathing problems. We immediately consulted a doctor and found out from the report that she was COVID positive. We rushed to a hospital nearby for immediate checkup and treatment. Unfortunately, there were no free beds. We called the doctor home to treat my mother for the time being. Finally, after struggling for 3 days, we managed to find a bed. By God's grace and with the help of medication, we could save my mother, and she's absolutely fine now. Here, Yasser has interviewed a daily wage worker working at construction site to know how COVID has affected him. What were your first thoughts about COVID 19? I thought it was just like any other flu. I didn't think it would be so fatal and it could be treated with care just at home. At first, I didn't even take precautions up until the lockdown started. That is when I realized the scope of the situation. What are the problems faced by you? As I'm a daily wage worker for 6 to 8 months, I was struggling for food because of the lockdown, which was suddenly imposed, because of which I was not even able to return to my own hometown. I barely managed to survive, squeezing out all of my funds. Life as a worker in a different state is really demanding. I could hardly afford other expenses like a mask, sanitizer. My life was very dependent and exhausted. The only thing which kept me going all these years was my love towards my family. What do you think has changed in the past 1.5 year in your area? For the past 1.5 year, workers were unemployed due to the COVID 19. There were no jobs available for them, which made them very difficult to pay rent. They could not afford 3 meals a day. It has been very difficult for us to survive in these times. Workers have been hustling day and night to make money because there were no job security guaranteed to them. Problems arose so much that many construction sites and companies were closed. After interviewing people, we realized that COVID has a different impact in everyone's geographies. We could see that Mrs. Padma Shri was financially strong, she had the support of her family. She could afford the treatment, whereas Mr. Abul Hussain, who is a daily wage worker, who struggles to have 3 meals a day, and his family, who is dependent on his wages, had a very challenging and dependent life. The situation has shown us that we are all same regardless of religion, culture, rich or poor. The virus simply doesn't choose between people. During this chaos, while many of us are in panic, it showed us the weight of humanity. It reminded us who we are. In the end, to conclude, COVID 19 has impacted the whole world in one way or the other. People's life has been affected, be it financially, mentally, as well as physically. Only together can we overcome the intertwined health and social economic impacts of the pandemic. Stay safe. Thank you.
Hello, Namaste. My name is Medha. I'm 14 and I live in Bangalore. Today, I'm going to talk about care during COVID from the perspective of my extended family. I come from a South Indian family. Most of our family gatherings happen as a part of religious events. For example, pujas, annual death ceremonies, and marriages. This is the necessary background to understand the study. As an example, how did they manage supposedly mandatory events such as Shraddhas given the COVID restrictions? Before COVID, we did not have to think about care specifically. It happened naturally. External services such as maids, teachers, schools, and offices weren't a risk and therefore they helped us on a daily basis. However, this completely changed when COVID arrived. External services became a high risk, one that many people were not willing to take. They had to manage everything themselves, and therefore, care became a deliberate action. This in turn caused stress, especially since COVID care meant a heightened responsibility for oneself and everyone around them. As we have noticed, people were waiting for COVID to recede so that they could get back to what was normal, as if it is even possible. So, I set off to find out who my extended family members were. Now, this is one huge family. We span 5 full generations and counting. Anyways, I started off by making a family tree to assess if the events were limited to the first circle relatives due to COVID restrictions. It happened so that many got invited but only few attended. Next, I wanted to find out which events actually spread the virus and to what extent people were affected. I took help from close family members to find out what prompted my family to organize events and how invitees decided to go or not go. This method allowed me to discover patterns. Here are some highlights of the data that I collected. One of 3 weddings was a disaster. 40 of my relatives attended, most of whom tested positive for COVID. The bride herself tested positive and was admitted to the ICU. The other events proceeded smoothly. If you ask me, they just got lucky. Few relatives, mostly elders, contracted COVID without going out. Initially, everybody followed the guidelines out of fear. But after the first wave was over, the data revealed 2 groups of people based on the risks they were willing to take. One group masked up and tried hard to minimize the spread of the virus. On the other hand, the second group started to let their guard down. This shows that each of us has a different understanding of what care means. Getting back to the two groups, I call selective followers and diligent plus. Selective followers are those who follow the government guidelines as a rule, but their understanding is short. Hence, they follow those rules that do not come in their way. Such people have interesting justifications, such as, how can I not go when they personally invite me? Or, I am vaccinated, so nothing will happen to me. Diligent plus are those who have adjusted and have to figure out how to live with the restrictions. They work with the rules even if it is an inconvenience to them. As you can see, when we don't attempt to understand the reasons behind the guidelines, we start to cut corners and give justifications as to why we do what we do. In the long term, we have all gotten tired of sitting at home and hence find loopholes to free ourselves from confinement. Selective followers escape by attending events and social gatherings where they meet a lot of people, while diligent plus go on vacations to minimize social interactions but still escape the walls of their homes. In conclusion, through my study, I have realized that when you care for yourself, you care for those around you. For example, when you wear your mask, you are not only protecting yourself, but you are also not putting your germs into the air for others to breathe. This is the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, I am here to answer, and thank you.
Hello everyone, I am Arfa Fatima from grade 8. I study at Vidyanjali Academy for Learning. We all know that at the beginning of 2021, the whole world was hit by COVID. There were many deaths, but most importantly, people were going into depression 3 times higher during this pandemic. And most of these people were affected by COVID. The reaction of others about this had a very big impact on their confidence. By relating to my personal experience of being a resident in an apartment in Bangalore during the pandemic, I could notice that all the other residents in my apartment followed all the precautions at the beginning of the pandemic. But as the second wave hit, all the residents of my apartment and my relatives did not take precautions as most of the people. I could see that my neighbors started inviting their relatives to their houses. In general, they started social gatherings. Also, my locality started developing into an importantly marked site which made a lot of gatherings, which in turn led the residents living around as victims of COVID. After this, they started taking more precautions and hopefully they recovered. But I could notice that they were getting avoided by other residents and people, which made me think, why do people react to them so differently although they have recovered from COVID? This leads me to my research topic, the different views of people on COVID patients. To understand this better, I had casual conversation with my neighbors and relatives and asked them a few questions. I interviewed 6 to 7 of my neighbors and relatives, of which 3 are males and 4 are females, and their average age group is 30 to 45 years. My main place of research is my locality. Here is an interview with one of my relatives. Firstly, before starting the interview, would you like to share some brief knowledge about your COVID journey? Sure, we were attacked by COVID during the month of June 2021. We got attacked by COVID for the same mistake everyone did, that was to stop taking proper precautions after the second wave. We were quarantined in our home. By consulting to doctors online and taking proper precautions, we recovered, and everything was back to normal within a month. How did people react to you after you recovered from COVID? When I recovered from COVID, people were still avoiding me. They were trying to stay as distinct as possible from me. A month passed by after I recovered. Then, people started acting normal or feeling safe around me. Did the people who were close to you act differently after you got attacked by COVID? Well, a few people who were close to me acted differently while I was quarantined. but a few people supported me a lot by cooking me food and helping me around with some tips. Did your relatives and neighbors help you during the time you got attacked by COVID? Yes, most of my relatives and neighbors helped me during that tough time. They took proper precautions and measures to stay safe and helpful. They used to cook me food and leave it at our doorstep in single-use boxes so that I could dispose it after use. They frequently talked to me online or by maintaining social distancing. They also gave me some tips on how to boost my immunity, which helped me a lot. I am very thankful for that to them. But the disturbing part is that there were only a few people who supported me, and many of the people were mean towards me. Why do you think people acted differently? Every person has a different perspective on different things. We cannot change their views or their opinion. Different people intake particular information in different ways. For instance, if there is a COVID positive case and the person is quarantined, there are people who will try to help him thinking that he needs some help or company. And there are also people who will try to distinct from him as far as possible, thinking that they will also get COVID. We cannot change their opinion. How did it have an impact on you? At one point, I got hurt due to the reaction. I thought that people were mean towards me, which made me sad, lonely, depressed, and tired. But after some time, I realized why I should not have that kind of mindset. How did you overcome this reaction from people? I tried some activities like meditation, yoga, and many physical activities. I also engrossed myself in activities such as art and craft, designing, etc. But the main perspective for these things was to keep our body and mind positive. By this, I understood that people had their ways to deal with their problems, and different people have different views on different things. We need to learn to deal with these things, and this is how we can fight COVID too. People have different ways to put you down, but you need to deal with it. Thank you.
Mental well-being during COVID-19. What is mental well-being? Mental well-being doesn't mean the same as mental health, although the two can influence each other. Mental well-being is defined as feeling good and functioning well. Long periods of low mental well-being may lead to diagnosable mental health like anxiety or depression. Good mental well-being is the absence of negative thoughts. What does good mental well-being look like? During difficult and challenging situations, causes to feel angry, sad, emotional, overwhelmed, and everything in between. Mental well-being in these situations: feel confident in oneself, build and maintain good relationships, have sense of purpose, live and work productively, manage when things change, cope in normal stresses of day-to-day life. During COVID-19 individual mental health. The COVID-19 crisis has damaged mental health all over the world. Many children and teenagers have missed out time with friends and school, and many elderly have felt isolated. Me, as a student, missed the time to play with my friends in my school. Senior citizens worried about health and concerned about going out. Employed people worried about job loss. How mental well-being achieve? During lockdown and being stayed at home, interaction with family members is important. Learning a new language, cooking, and sharing memories reduce loneliness. Spending more time with family, elders, making them interactive and spend time. Distance and group learning activities like yoga and meditation makes family members and elders healthy. How did I keep mental well-being? I learned a new language with my father. I learned Tamil. I learned it how to write and talk in Tamil with my father. I cooked different dishes with the help of internet. I learned how it is important to keep a place neat and tidy. I learned gardening. I learned yoga and meditation with my family and guiding my grandmother while doing it. Thank you.
Thanks to all of you for your presentations. As I said at the beginning, excuse me, at the beginning of the session, we're opening it up to questions and comments from anyone who is interested. Please click on the raise hand button and then we'll take it.
I'd just like to add, we are encouraging our young geographers to ask questions. So it would be nice to hear from the fellow participants. Feel free to comment on or ask questions of your fellow presenters.
Don't always think that others have to ask you questions and you only answer. You should also be asking questions. So we're hoping to hear some good geography questions from our presenters here today. Wow. Listen to that silence. Okay. Let me
I have one.
Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
So this one is for Meda. Question for Meda. So first off, really awesome presentation. I mean, one thing that I really liked was that you were able to find a trait that all of us knew deep down but never could pinpoint. I just wanted to ask, how did you go about finding that? How did you analyze and come to that conclusion?
Thank you. I talk to family members, and since I have a large family, just by seeing how they went to events, how they took precautions when they attended these events, and what they did to keep themselves safe compared to what I did. I compared it to what me and my my parents what we did, how it compared to us, and that's how I made the two groups of people.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah. Jiva, please go ahead.
Hi, yes. My question is to Dhyanesh. The movie he made, it was really exciting. How did he make it? Can you please explain?
Hello, Jiva. Like, I'm from my childhood, I'm a fan of movies and I watch a lot of dark movies. So I write scripts mainly. Like, I like to write stories. So that's the reason I first began with the script and then the dialogues. I wanted to be especially scary. That's when the viewers get the emotion, they'll get the emotion what I'm trying to convey to the people. That's the main motive of this video. Like they have to understand my pain, the pain that I underwent that 15 days. So I also edit videos. Like I have a YouTube channel and then I edit videos. So I used a software named Lightworks. So it was usual movie making. The way they make the movie, it's the same way, but yeah, nothing.
Cool. Yeah, go ahead.
No, that's it. Thank you for explaining it.
Sure. We have a comment or question from Mr. Murali. Please go ahead.
Sir, you're on mute.
Yeah, Murali, I think you're on mute. Please go ahead. Hello? Okay, while we wait for Mr. Murali to get his connection back, let's go to a question from Mr. Guru Datta.
Yeah, thank you. Great session, especially this last session. It touched more about how the mental health and COVID as a general issue has affected each one of us individually. What I saw a common pattern in all the presentations was the aspect of hygiene. Hygiene is not something we got to know only after COVID struck us. Hygiene is something we all have come across through our school studies. So mine is a more of an open question to all the young geographers. Do you think COVID-19 will ensure that we become more hygienic in our daily lives? Or do you think once the pandemic dies down, we'll just go back to our normal way of ignore the hygiene? So what is your thought on these front? Because hygiene is a key aspect, not just in COVID, any other illness. For example, today we see dengue is getting more prevalent in certain parts of India. And again, hygiene plays a key role there. So what do you have to say on this front?
Who wants to take it up? Harshita, are you planning to address this point? Harshita, your hand was raised. Do you want to address this point? Okay. Okay, it's open. Whoever wants to address this point, please raise it. Go ahead, Jaya. Jaya Paul, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. I want to address, so this question is very valid question now. I want to tell that COVID-19 pandemic, on one side, it was like a lesson to all of us, like the linear lifestyle we used to live, like at least me, from my side, I'm telling my personal experience. Like after coming back home, we like very often, like very very few people used to wash their hands and be sanitized before sitting on the beds, on the sofa, or touching any of the family members. But this COVID-19 has taught us that was not very hygienic. Not only this pandemic, but every disease needs to be cured. Like prevention is better than cure. We always know that. So if we maintain the proper preventive measures, then we could always prevent any disease. Like you have mentioned dengue. And today I've come across a new virus called the norovirus, which is in many parts of the South India, it's spreading very rapidly. At least 13 cases are recorded. So we should always be more preventive in our measure. And if we like continue what we are doing now, and if like in one of the presentations when I've told like 15 out of 3 people are seen to wear masks, if this number increase, then not only COVID, but the number of diseases that are being recorded across the country will surely decrease. And we are learning, like this is a teaching that God has probably given to us, that we should be more careful. Thank you, sir. That was my part.
Thank you. Mr. Murali Krishnan, you had a question earlier and for some reason you couldn't connect. Could you please go ahead now?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Wonderful. No, I basically wanted to congratulate everyone. First of all, Dhyanesh, I hope that your flat face has changed. You're able to laugh now. Okay, so the point that I want to mention about is from the presentation that Faizan, Agnimitra, and Yasir, I think, it was very poignant. Particularly, we all give a lot of rules, to use sanitizer, to, keep our hands clean, use of, mask. But what was so touching was that the daily wage laborers who already had lost their, daily, jobs, who were finding it so difficult to manage, meet both things meet. I don't know how far these rules would have actually worked, particularly buying a sanitizer, using a facial mask to protect themselves. Social distancing is very easy to say, but I was just wondering, probably it's a question for all of us. I was just wondering, like, who would have really supported these people? Particularly, did the government come forward to help them? whether NGOs to help them, the individuals like us, who help them in buying those sanitizers and buying those facial masks, or any corporates who came forward, because most of the people who worked in offices were all stuck at home, meaning they're all attending to their office work, sitting at home, taking office work from the from home. Work from home was given to them. So who would have really supported these daily wage laborers is something that is really I think it's a question that I really want. If any one of you can actually add some more light on it, including the team which presented on this.
Okay. While people consider, excuse me, consider that point, Harshita, we lost you earlier. Sorry about that. Please feel free to speak.
So you want me to continue? Should I talk, Uncle?
Please go ahead, Harshita. Go ahead.
Yeah. So from the first presentation till the end, I just wanted to add on. It's like an open question. We covered all the kinds of people, all the precautions which was taken during COVID, but I thought we should have also covered a place where the people from the lower caste, like the Dalits and those kind of people, what are the challenges they might have faced. When we come to schooling also, they'll have a lot of challenges. From the first, and during COVID, it might also have been increased for them. And for the work which they go, and it's a huge challenge for them. So I thought we should have also add on these kind of points also to our research question.
Correct. Harshita, may I make a suggestion to you then? You brought up a very, very good point, something that was mentioned. Dr. Muttat also mentioned it in her opening comments. Why don't you do it yourself? You have now learned how to do research on your own. Why don't you, if any of us can help you, we'll be more than happy to help you with that. I think you should seriously consider doing that research yourself. It's a great idea. It's a good research project.
Sure.
Yeah. If you're interested, if any of you is interested in doing that, please let us know. We'll be happy to help you in any way we can. And Harshita, since you raised the question, I'm saying, why don't you do it yourself? Nothing is to stop anyone from doing this project. I think it's a great idea. We should. So do let us know if any of you would like to take this project up. And if there is any way you think we can help you with it, we would love to. All right. Okay. Any other comments or questions? I don't see any hands raised here. So, okay, very good. Ms. Deepika Khandelwal, please go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really touched by a few of the presentations today, which really have done in quite organized manner the research, which have helped them go into deeper, see the categories, put them in the categories, and then see that pattern and realize and understand why and how things went the way they went. So especially Medha, I really want to appreciate and congratulate you for this particular aspect. Very crystal clear, your categories, your patterns, and deeper meaning and reasons for why things are the way they are. I just wanted to thank all of them for that.
Sure. Okay. We next have Sunil Gano. Please go ahead.
I would like to address two of the stars of this particular session. First, Medha. Medha, congratulations on a very mature presentation of research. And I was surprised to find out how old you are, because I had thought that what you were presenting could have put to shame some of the older people I have seen presenting at conferences in my long life. So very well done. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much.
My second remark is to Jnanish. Could you please talk a little bit about the inspiration behind this particular film that you did?
There's no particular inspiration. I just wanted to express my personal life, my personal experience of COVID-19. That's it, no large expression. But the talking about the movie making skill, I learned it from a director named Mani Ratnam, and Mani Ratnam and Christopher Nolan's. Like their movies are dark and they won't. They aren't. They'll be very cinematic. They aren't like a normal cliche type of movie. So basically the script what I wrote was too dark and which expressed like when I read your comments, it was they all told that it was gripping as well as my voice was powerful. So that's it. Nothing big. There's no big inspiration for this.
Okay.
Okay. We now have Ms. Sridevi. Please go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, congratulations to all the presenters. Like I mentioned in my comment, you're all very sophisticated the way you're presenting, putting a lot of us to be very humbled by what we are seeing today. Thank you so much. I have gotten a few ideas from all of you. And I think very specifically the more details of research that you all have done and analyzed, for example, Medha's, where you've gone into the patterns that you found, very insightful for all of us to focus on all the time during research. Very nice. What I wanted to bring to this whole community also was now that we are coming out of the pandemic era. One was that what Mr. Gurudat said about the hygiene part of it. How are we going to take it forward? Similarly, there are many aspects. For example, in Harshita's case, where she spoke about the pets, I know a lot of people who had pets during the pandemic because they were feeling lonely. People who would have never otherwise had pets, kept pets, they went and got because the kids are feeling lonely. But now that we are coming out of it and everybody's traveling, what is happening to that? Can we have some guidelines on how we will come out of it? Can we influence some authorities as TIGS to make a difference in how we will be more sensitive towards people, like how Medha pointed? Will that sensitivity be carried forward? The learnings from all these experiences, how can we make it formally? I don't know, if a similar situation comes in the future, can we make that something we learned from and not repeat history again and learn from the beginning again? So things like that, specifics. Yeah.
Good question. Medha, would you like to address that question?
I've not really thought about it. Now that you're bringing it up, I'm thinking about it. I don't.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Dr. Mutata had some comment or question to add. Dr. Mutata.
Yes, so thanks again to all the presenters in this session. A very engaging set of presentations. Mohammed, I really congratulate you on taking the trouble to interview people from different backgrounds and thereby trying to show the differences in each one's place and how that has a bearing on their abilities to cope in tough situations. I just wanted to ask you, did you ask Mr. Abdul if he or anyone in his family or work group was affected by COVID and what their experiences might have been? That would have made a nice, almost a perfect comparison between the two respondents that you had chosen.
Yes, ma'am. I did, but he said that by God's grace, nobody was affected by COVID.
Okay, so what you could do then is, in order to make that contrast, you can say in your presentation, you can say, I asked Mr. Abdul and he said nobody got COVID. Despite that, even though they didn't get COVID, just, battling the situation and trying to stay clear of it, just the prevention itself has been so difficult given their adverse situation, So when you try to draw out the comparison like that, then it makes a more hard-hitting statement. Do you see what I'm saying? So I think, and the same point I had for Kanishk also, when I asked Kanishk, did you ask the people who developed the apps what were some of the limitations? And he said, I asked, but they didn't answer. I think what the point I'm trying to make is, as researchers, we have a responsibility to push questions. You should not leave it at, where it stands. You should prod. You have the responsibility, because you're taking time to interview public. At the same time, you have the responsibility to then push questions. Do you see what I'm saying? So never take something as a given, both in your questioning and in your reflection of data and presentation of data. You have every right and responsibility to keep probing with sensitivity and honesty to yourself. Okay. Then secondly, Dhyanesh, it really comes across that you want to share your personal story, and we really encourage that in TIGS, that the personal is also geography. My suggestion to you would be, try experimenting with other formats also. Okay, so animation and filmmaking is something that has been very dear to you. But you're still very young, and now when you have the time, it's good to explore different formats. So both in filmmaking, consider face-to-face, like a non-fiction film, face-to-face interviewing people. See how that touches you or changes you. And secondly, when you write up your own story, through text, because you say you write scripts. So pay attention to how that makes you feel in terms of expressing your feelings vis-a-vis animation. And thirdly, when you feel so passionately about your experiences, it can also help you to connect with other people's experiences in the same depth. So try to see if you can set up parallel lines in your story. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
reflect about how that experience is, how that experience can change your way of experiencing your grief and also understanding the world outside.
Sure, ma'am.
Okay. Dhyanesh, would you like to a few minutes to respond?
Like I understood, like ma'am suggested me to experiment the way I express my
Sure.
stories.
Yeah.
Like let it be a documentary or a conversation between two people.
Correct.
Told me to experiment.
Okay.
Understood.
The next person I have here, I'm sorry, there is no name for you. It simply says guest. So please go ahead. Okay, so,
Can
well,
I ask a question?
hello.
So can I ask my question?
Yeah, what's your, please identify yourself by name and then ask the question.
Sir, my name is already edited. I'm Kirtika.
Okay, go ahead. Kirtika.
My question is for Dhyanesh. First of all, your presentation was really good. And my question is like this. Did you regain happiness which you had before pandemic, and once after your grandmother recovered from COVID? Did you regain the happiness which you had before pandemic, and once your grandmother had recovered from COVID, did you feel the happiness about
Yes.
same which you had before pandemic?
Yeah, definitely, absolutely, Kritika. Like I was really close to my grandmom and grandpa, and I also was restricted from going. I was a bit sad. Like it's usual in all the families. Grandchildren are attached to their grandparents. So definitely, I was happy when I had the opportunity to meet my grandparents after the COVID thing.
Okay, I believe Hari Kumar wants to say something. Please go ahead, Hari.
Hi. It was wonderful to listen to all the presentations from the children. It was quite a journey because I had posted my abstract and I couldn't make the presentation, but there's so many points that I wanted to cover, which I felt was covered in different ways. And it was nice to see that. And thank you so much for the opportunity. I would also like to say that I could see the effort that Dhyanesh had put into his presentation to make it into a moving picture of sorts. And that was that was really nice. I mean, the amount of effort that someone has put into the presentation and the time taken for that, that was really nice. Just wanted to appreciate that.
Thank
And
you, sir.
with regard to the question from Mr. Guru Datta, though it was for students, I just wanted to bring another aspect to that question. He had asked that how much of the hygiene factor will be continued after the pandemic is sort of over. And I think there is an aspect of a sense of force or sense of thrust upon following those hygiene aspects. So it depends so much on the age demography of the people who are forced. Like if it was very young children, they would have thought that this is the sort of way that we live, and they would take up these habits very easily. But when it comes to a different age group, say the adolescents, the sense of wanting to follow what they want is stronger there. So the mental state that each person was in during the pandemic, I think that would contribute a huge amount towards making it a continuity or something to rebel against. So that is something that I felt, that I thought is something was crucial also, the mental state of every person who took up those restrictions, took up the various protocols to follow. So I think those will also play a huge role, is what I wanted to say. Yeah, that's all. Thanks.
Cool. Mr. Gurudatta, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Harikumar, for your inputs. My point was on a generic sense. This is another point I'm trying to put across to all the young geographers. Today's session, which primarily dwells on COVID and the influence of geography and various types of analysis, studies, mental health, general awareness, everything. I would like to just put in a request to all the presenters and other young students, teachers who are all part of this event today. Try to encourage yourselves, the students, to do similar studies for other illnesses and diseases, and maybe try to do a cross comparison. Today, COVID is it's a global phenomena, and we are all concerned about it because it's affecting life in different ways. So we are, as part of IGYS also, COVID has been a theme, and it's a very beautiful session everybody is presenting. Now, say you contrast it to something as simple as common flu, or you try to contrast it to something like a malaria, dengue, and try to come up with these kind of studies and sort of create a cross comparison chart and things like that. And I think in doing that, the young geographers, you would have found out what are the illnesses where we are really serious, illnesses where we are really not serious, and maybe this could sort of so that quest for doing more research, because eventually, say about a decade from now, you all will be in a very decision-making role and responsibility. So what you're getting as a learning from today's session, try to sort of expand it further into your future studies and research, so that say 10 years from now, we can see a whole lot of changes happening when it comes to health sector or other aspects of research and points you'll be all pursuing. That's all I have. I just wanted to touch upon these things.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Nandini Kumar, please go ahead.
So good afternoon to all of you, and nice to see Dr. Bala here, long distance virtually. Well, actually, I was in the Indian Council of Medical Research, so naturally all that has been presented is a type of research. And in that, because I talk a lot about ethics, I'll come to that later, but let me just make my points first. whenever you're using the Google form, and as it was pointed out, certain fields were not filled up, and that is a gap which can be closed by following it as Mutata had pointed out. It can be followed with personal interview. Of course, virtually in the present circumstances. And also the fact that the previous speaker spoke about negligence of other diseases because of the concentration on COVID. It's a very important issue like HIV and TB. The drugs that got affected, the drug supply that got affected because of this, nobody was bothered about that much because of the rampant spread of COVID. So that also is a great ethical issue and has been discussed world over several times. So that preparedness, of course, comes from the government side, and other NGOs can actually help in that. So that is another area which could have been explored. But there were, some pearls like, about the situation with the pets and the spread of COVID, tracing that, that was a wonderful way of a presentation. And there were other presentations also equally good. But then I must say about Gyanesh, of course, Gyanesh used the pictures. I was reminded of an experience for one of my ethics training where a theater group performed by simply sitting in chairs and enacting their roles. And this had actually even the TV stars and the movie stars like Tom Malta. And the thing is, initially there were theater groups also invited to attend that. And they were, looking very skeptically, what are these people going to perform sitting in chairs? Is this the theater form? But then by the end of it, the chairs melted. It was only the voice which was heard by everyone, and it was a story running on the stage. And everybody, stood up, gave them a standing ovation. It was the same experience I felt with Gyanesh's presentation. He simply used the figures to express what he wanted to express, but it was his voice which carried out the story. And that was a very strong one. So, I mean, he is really going to be probably a good movie maker in his future. And then I'm coming back to the ethics side of things. The point is that, you see, ICMR has got this student fellowship, but that is at the undergraduate level, medical undergraduates. Now, they actually have to submit the proposals to the ethics committee, so that is a must. But at the school level, and I have seen that programs, we have had programs right straight from the undergraduate level up to the faculty, ethics committee members, and things like that. The fast learners are the undergraduates. And the way, they pick up things, and they're so naive and so raw that they know more about ethics than the adults. And that is the time how you can mold them into better individuals later. And the other point is that when you come to the school level, of course, there's talk now by the government to even start some training of ethics at the school level also, because we used to have moral science, in schools earlier. Now it's no longer being taught. It's considered more of a nuisance than a subject by itself. So now that children are doing this research, they may not know anything about something called informed consent. So whenever they are actually, using people for questioning, using questionnaires and all that, there has to be an informed consent. And you cannot actually at this stage say that you get your proposal approved by an ethics committee and all that. That may be too much actually to do, but at least the beginnings will be there, that you at least do the informed consent process. When you are using Google Forms or Survey Monkey as a methodology, you can always have an initial paragraph that this research is not going to cause you risk, or there may be benefit, and you can withdraw. You don't have to go forward. So that way they agree to it. You would have seen that many of the things, when we go to the net, there are these agreements. There are long passages, and then at the end of it, you say agree or not agree. And you don't even read those passages, and you just put agree because you don't have the time. So, but then in Monkey Survey and all, you just have one-page business, which people can read easily. And then they go ahead if they want to go ahead. And if they want to stop anywhere in between, they can stop. So that's the way to go about it, about, online questionnaires. But when you go personally, you have to actually get the consent in written form. But in COVID situation, you don't have to do that, but somebody should witness that this was done. That's the ideal way in which you can go about it, and it's nothing great, but the children will learn the value, and they will understand that when they grow older, they'll have the high school projects, or they will have the college projects and all that. Then they will become aware that there is something called informed consent. The people have to be informed what they are letting themselves into. So that's my take. And thank you very much it was a wonderful, listening to all these children. It's so exciting to listen to these young minds, what they conceive and how they bring it about.
Thank you very much.
Over to you.
Thank you very much. We now have Shakti Uma. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Bala. Namaskaram, everyone. I'm unable to come on video, not keeping well, but it's not COVID. I would like to extend my special greetings, salutations, congratulations to all the children here. Amazing work, amazing presentation, content, and the way that you've all gone about and researching and working on it with the mentorship and presenting it here to all of us. Hats off to you all. Each one of you has been outstanding, unique. That's the first thing that I would like to convey to you all, children, my children. And second thing that I would like to say is, we come from this tradition of inquiry-based education. The way that we have studied in the past has never been as if the teacher said something and you believed. It was always a dialogue. And I'm sure that is the sort of mentorship that you all have received under TIGS, especially under Dr. Chandrasekhar Balachandran. That's a way that you all have presented it here. I can see it in your presentations, the way that it has gone about in each of the words that you spoke. This has been a very experiential and inquiry-based learning to all of you. And since you're all children throughout this time of pandemic, one thing that is remarkable about this event and all these presentations is the empathy that you all must have experienced as you went about conducting interviews and studies and research and putting it all together here. The way it's as if you were there experiencing this, talking to various sects of people, various age groups, have stepped out of your comfort zones, comfort circles, going to places that you've never been before. Beyond your families and extended families, your neighbors, your friends, you have stepped outside your comfort circles and zones. So I can see that you all have been emphatic about the entire situation, this pandemic. And there's another thing that I want to share with you all. This is such a moment of joyous celebration because in this country and across the world, there are not many places, spaces, organizations where young minds and young adults could express themselves about how they feel, what they feel, based on study and research and inquiry. The Institute of Geographical Studies has made it possible for you all to be able to contribute that way, giving a chance and platform to be able to carry out this expression, this freedom of expression that you all had here. How many of us get to do this, especially from an academic pursuit, also having fun during the process, fact findings, and this elaborate process of how to put a research together. Since I physically participated in the IGOS summits in the past, I must say it never felt like an academic conference, for days. Such was the joy. Despite the fact that this has gone online and we are all not meeting each other, geographies have set us apart, but we are all united here in this pursuit of inquiry in the tradition of knowledge, being under such mentorship, such beautiful mentorship, which you all, I myself feel like an Ekalavya studying under Dr. Chandrasekhar Balachandran. Sometimes I feel I was more younger like you, pursuing and doing things that you all do. And yes, that's how I just want to put this. And there's another thing which is something I wanted to share. It's such a joy for all the children, I'm sure, to pursue and study and enjoy an academic subject, a faculty like geography, without any competition, so much of teamwork, cooperation, right? Fact finding and comparative studies from various sources, totally in the absence of competition. That's the most beautiful part, isn't it?
Zuma, hi. We have a couple of other people waiting also, 3 people actually.
Yes.
So we'll come back to you further down the line.
Yes.
I think one of the things you have facilitated right now is the segue into the general discussion of the conference and its context. So thanks for doing that. Dr. Muttata, you wanted to say something? Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Chandra. I just wanted to also congratulate the other 2 participants in this session. Arfa, Fatima, I wanted to say thank you very much for choosing a very important and sensitive topic for your presentation, the topic of prejudice. And I also want you to follow up on this research. I think there's a lot more that you can do with it because you talk so much about the differences and and the end you conclude that yes, everybody is different and we have to be tough enough to accept that difference. And the question I would like to pose to you, you don't have to answer it now, but you can reflect upon it, is can you think about how we can work towards common understanding or norms to overcome prejudice? Yes, people are different, but can we ask why they're different, why they have certain ideas? And even in a family, whatever social group you take, however small it is, even if it's a family, there are differences. But what holds us together is certain common norms and respect. So how can we achieve that? So do think through that. And thanks again for a very nice presentation. And Sanvi, your presentation was also very sensitive and nice. I really like listening to your voice and talking about your personal experiences. So do stay in touch with us. And if you'd like to develop your research further, if you'd like to interview other members of your family or interview other families and do some kind of a larger study, we are there to help you. And my question to you is, if you had to write a research question beginning with why, how would it change your research? So do think about that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now in the final short stretch of our conference. So may I request Sunil, if you're going to be speaking now, would you be able to bring us to the general discussion, or would you still want to be talking about this particular session?
How are we doing on time?
We have a little bit of time.
Okay, well, like the other 2, this session was also very stimulating. What I am hoping for, and I am hoping I will respond to Dr. Chandrasekhar's request to segue into the next part, is that for those who have come to the TIGS conference for the first time, I request you to not make this the last. For your movement along from school to college to university and later on to pastures anew, perhaps abroad, etc., the kind of rigor that you have put into this research, you will find is going to be of immense use to you, academically speaking, when you study at higher levels. You don't have to specialize in geography. Any science, any of the humanities subjects, each one of them is going to insist that you have the skills that you are acquiring here. So I urge you very strongly to look upon this association not as a project, but as an association where you commit to spending time with this organization that Dr. Chandrasekhar has set up to learn from it. Thank you.
Thank you. Jiva, you had raised your hand earlier. Do you still want to say something?
Good afternoon. I'm Srinivasan.
Oh, Dr. Srinivasan, hi.
And since to avoid echo, I could have registered in separate room, but since it is in the house, no avoid echo. We both watched since morning this session, and it was so exciting. I really missed the physical session of the conference.
Dr. Srinivasan, can you hold for just a moment? I just want to introduce you. Dr. Srinivasan is Professor of Economics at the NCERT in Delhi, and a very long time friend of TIGS and a supporter of IGYS and all the work we do. Please go ahead.
So I found this lot of learning within me also, the way children have made their presentations and variety of narratives. It is not a monologue kind of presentation. In all the 3 sessions, and each child has shown that they are unique in their presentation of ideas, and all the presentations were very, very clear-cut ideas are presented from the beginning to the end. It is so amazing. I also want to take this opportunity that if some students want to present this same presentations in a live-in program of NCERT, maybe in December, I would like to invite a few of the participants to come forward, so that 30 minutes, within the 30 minutes presentations, if there are 2 to 3 presenter students who want to present in the NCERT platform in CIET, and they are welcome. That's the one invitation I'm giving. And secondly, like if the and I found that the idea of Durgapur presentation was excellent. I can see I am learning geography, how a particular
Very good. Yeah.
I can see some of those presentations in the textbooks also, and you can see that I really appreciate the teacher and the students from West Bengal coming forward to make this presentation. And almost all the presentations, I cannot even reduce even 1 grade in any of the presentations. Excellent presentations of each one of the students. And I can see the challenges that they faced while making the PowerPoint slides and the variety of visuals that they put in. And as an adult, we do a lot of presentations and we don't take any stress on making all those visuals visible to the audience. But I can appreciate each student has made the visuals, choosing the visuals and the text. They were excellent. I also thank the mentors for helping the students to make this presentation. It's excellent. I wish all the students best of luck, and I look forward to some of the participants to make this presentation in the NCERT live studio through online. That's my invitation, and thank you very much for giving this opportunity to interact during this conference.
Thank you very much, Dr. Srinivasan. It's always a pleasure to have you with us at IGYS and any other occasion. At this point, I'll take use the prerogative of being the host to make a few general comments about the conference itself. I'm very happy with the way things have gone and how well you have all cooperated in the process with a great deal of patience and done a great job of it. So now I would like to invite you to look at a couple of other things as well, a few other things. One is TIGS is now hosting a set of blogs, not just one blog. So I'm going to put this website address up here on in the chat window. Please do check out the various blogs we have now. Pretty soon we are going to have a different website that will be announced when it is ready. And all of these, even more facilities will be available there on that website. Let me also, earlier Dr. Mutata mentioned the Geography Everywhere book. It is available as an e-book online for 200 rupees, I think is the price of the book. If you go to this page, from there I was trying to load the link of the seller, but I could not. So you can go here and click on the link and purchase a copy of the book if you would like. I do have a few printed copies, but I would prefer that if you can use the online ebook, that will be better. I have a few copies left of the hard copy. If you would like that, please let me know and I'll let you know how to get it. Then the, excuse me, several of the presentations that whoever is planning to take your presentations forward, your research forward, not just the presentation, please consider not only what Dr. Srinivasan invited you to do, but also to present them on our blog. We have a guest blog that we are, happy to host your write-ups. So please do contact us and let us know if you want to present take your research forward and present it on our site, at the TIGS site. We'll be happy to help you with that as well. Further, I have a couple of announcements for next summer, 2022 summer. We are planning to offer 2 courses specifically for high school children. One is a course on geoinformatics and what it is as a subdiscipline of geography. And Mr. Gurudatta and I are working on developing that course at this time. And more information will be forthcoming once we have set it all up. And we're hoping that by next summer, things have eased up that we can have an offline course. If that is possible, great. If not, certainly online, we're planning to offer that course. Another course that we are planning, again, if it is off, if the COVID situation eases up, let me just type this is also for high school students. It's going to be called Research and Communications in Geography or something like that it will be. It will be a very intense course and it will help you in many ways, as Mr. Sunil also pointed out, not just for geography, but for anything else as well. We just happen to talk about geography, that's all. So these 2 courses are coming up next summer. So please keep an eye out for the announcements of that. So now for the course in Research and Communications in Geography, I'm hoping Dr. Nandini will be able to join us and give us a few sessions on ethics in research. So Dr. Nandini, I hope you're not regretting speaking up, but it would be really nice if you could join us and give us a few sessions on that as well.
Sure. I'll be happy to do that.
Okay, great. I had not intended to put you on the spot there, but couldn't resist it. So, and now I want to share a couple of other things. One is an announcement that I'll see if I can, I don't know if I can post it here. No, I can't. Okay. There is and I've shared this information on the IGYS 2021 WhatsApp group. There's going to be a webinar on Saturday, 20th of November, next Saturday, 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. The title is Geoscience for Life, not just for marks. And it's going to be presented by myself, a scientist from ISRO by the name of Mr. Nagajyoti Kannan, and a geoinformatics scientist by the name of Mr. Ujjwal Gandhi, who is the founder of a company called Spatial Thoughts. So please mark your calendar for this. This information has been already sent to the IGOS WhatsApp group. I'll be posting it again later today. Please do, you have to register for this, so please do that. Now, as Sunil and everybody else, so many others have pointed out, I hope this is not a one-off for each of you. I hope we all continue to be in touch, continue to ask each other geography questions, continue to collaborate on looking at and examining issues that are of importance to us. And once we empower ourselves with geography and geographic techniques, then we might even be able to help other people. So first we have to empower ourselves before we can do anything else for helping others. So with that, can we say we have had a pleasant morning? I think we had a very pleasant session today. We're almost out of time now. So let me thank you all for joining us, for making this such an extraordinary experience for all of us, including myself. So thank you all very much again, and we will we'll meet again very soon, I hope.
Ring.